You ain't never had a friend, never had a friend. So, I just got back from seeing Aladdin. The movie was so good. Like, oh my god. I'm a little get up, you know. See. What'd you think of Boo? Did you like the movie? Okay, a little Boo here. Okay. With all these Disney live actions happening, you know, they did Cinderella, Maleficent, Beauty and the Beast, Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin, you know, and now with Aladdin. Everyone's asking, was it as good as the original? Without a shadow of doubt, yes. This, for me, lived up to the original. To be honest, it's like 1 point above the original, in my opinion. I love both of them as a tiebreaker, but this one is just a teensy better. Just, I don't know. There's just something about it. There's just something about it. Just, I'm trying not to go over the place. So, I was so excited when they first announced they were going to do a Disney live action. I thought, yes, this is great. And then I started to have one doubt. I was like, who are they going to get to play the genie? And I was like, they're not going to, whoever they're going to pick won't top Robin Williams. And then they said Will Smith. I said, all right then, who better yet? That's great, second best. Will Smith, he killed it. He didn't Robin Williams killed it, but he killed it. All right? He didn't try to replace Robin Williams. He didn't try to reboot Robin Williams' Genie. No. He played a whole new world, if I might say, different version of Genie. And it was great. I gotta give up props for this movie. The cast and crew, y'all did great. Y'all did great. Mina Masood as Aladdin. Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. Will Smith as the genie. The guy that played Jafar. To the chick that played Dahlia. They murdered this movie. They obliterated it. It was so good. So there was a lot of things I wanted them to do similar to the old one, but add a whole new spin to it. And I'll say this. If you watch this movie and then watch the original, they are two completely different films. Completely. Let me tell you that. They are completely. Same characters, but a whole different story and a whole different version than the old one. So, for example, the start of the movie, it shows Will Smith. He's not the genie, he's a human. He's on this boat. He's got his wife in the background. He's got his two little kids on the boat. So he brings them over and he's like, it's time I tell you the story about Aladdin, the princess, and a lamp. And then they ask him to sing, and he's like, no, it's been a long day. I better not start. He's like, I don't want to sing. He walks off, turns around, and he starts singing Arabian Night, which you all know. I love Arabian Night. It's such a good song, and the the way the original did it was, you have the Disney logo pop up, and then it says doom 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 doom, and then it pulls up the title, and then it plays Arabian Nights as the storyteller walks on, like, rides his camel through the desert, and it plays Arabian Nights. This was even better. It shows him singing. It cuts to the title. You get to see a Boo run through the market, stealing people's objects. Jumps on Aladdin's shoulder, and they both walk off. It goes up the. It shows the palace goes all the way up. You see the Sultan talking to one of the soldiers. Then you see Jasmine and Dahlia talking by the fountain, and Raja's there, and then Iago flies by, and then you get to see Iago fly through the desert until he gets to the Cave of Wonders. He was so good. Will Smith, man, he sung that song really, really well. I love it. I have the soundtrack on my phone. It's all I've been listening to for the past few weeks. So it shows the Cave of Wonders, and it shows the thief that Jafar sent in, and it eats him. And then Jafar's just like, well, I gotta find someone else. And then it cuts to daylight, and then it shows Aladdin and Abu in the marketplace, and it shows you how smart Mina Masu's Aladdin is, because the girl that he's talking to, she has him distracted while her little buddy walks beside him and tries to steal something from Aladdin's pocket. And he's like, "Nah, this is mine." And then they get to show, as he's being chased off by like a few guards, they show off his parkour skills, which I was like, all right, the cartoon version made everybody feel a bit jumpy and agile. And I said two of the characters that are the most agile are Aladdin and the genie. So I'm like, how are they gonna put that in live action? Mina Masood, when you look at him off screen versus what he looks like on screen, it's like he's playing like a character. He bounces all around. He's climbing up things, jumping up things. It's great. So he goes and buys a few like dates, takes a bite or two, and then sees the kids. He gives it to them. Then he walks off. Then it shows Jasmine in the marketplace. They don't even show her like in the castle, um, which was great because if you've already seen the original, then you already know what's coming. And if this is your first Aladdin movie, like my little sister, um, then this is a whole different version for her. Because to be honest, I didn't really need to see Jasmine in the palace talking about her marriage and her father, the Sultan, saying you've only got 3 days to get married because you'll be 16 soon, and you need a sultan to marry you, and yada yada yada. So it shows her in the marketplace, and she sees two little kids. She gives them a piece of bread from a cart. They run off, and then the guy turns around and is like, "You stole from me," yada yada. Aladdin walks over and he's like, "Don't worry, I got this." And he's like, and he played it off different. He didn't say like, she's my sister, she's a little cuckoo. He took her bracelet, gave it to him, and they started walking off. She's like, "That's my bracelet. You gotta give it to me." And he's like, "You mean this?" And he has the bracelet. Then it cuts to one jump, which was great. Fantastic. I liked how they did it differently. They had both Aladdin and Jasmine running away from the guards. It was great. And you got to see even more parkour. Um, through the old song, there were some things I did not like, and it kind of, to me, back then, the animation, was, wacky, but it was supposed to be. Um, but going back, I went and watched the original before I saw this one, and because I love the original, and it's one of my favorite Disney movies of all. It's my favorite Disney movie of all time. Um, but there were some things I was like, well, they could have been that could have been a little bit better, or they could have tweaked this before they sent it out. But the live action is great, looked great. Um, so after, and one thing I really liked at the very end, when he's like, "Better throw my hand out, wish me happy landing," and he jumps, he throws like a rug off the building, and it goes through a roof, so the guards think he crashed through the roof, and he just climbs back up, and he's like, "Yeah, come on, I know a safe place to go." Then it cuts to Jafar. He's in his lair, and one of his minions is like, "Why are you doing all this? You're second best. You almost like the power. You almost have the power of the Sultan." He's like, "For all my life, I've been called second best. I've been referred to as second best, second best, second best." And he's like, "Don't worry, man. Second best is good, man. It's good. It's like good. You just not all powerful and you know like reign over like the Sultan is." And he pushes him down the well, which was crazy because I can't think because I can't think of the original movie. I don't think Jafar killed anybody. I mean, he sent that thief into the Cave of Wonders, and that physically ate him. But Jafar didn't really kill anybody in the old movie. So when he killed him in this one, I was genuinely shocked. I really thought, wow, this guy's really terrifying. I do not want to mess with this dude. So cut back to Jasmine and Aladdin. They're in Aladdin's house, um, which looked honestly really cool. It was all wrecked up and stuff, but it looked really cool to live in. So they get to know each other a little bit. Um, Aladdin assumes she's the maid to the princess, and Jasmine's like, "Yeah, I'm the maid. I'm Dahlia." And he's like, "Oh, okay. You know all the princess?" And she's like, he's like, "Do you know why the princess isn't coming out or whatever?" And she's like, "Well, her mother died, and the sultan keeps her locked up because he wants his daughter to stay safe." And then Aladdin's like, "Well, it's not Agrabah's fault that the queen died." Um, and then they bond over a guitar that Aladdin's mom used to know how to play, and then Jasmine knew the song as well. So I like that it added so much. Because with the animated movies, it doesn't give some of the older ones that we've seen being brought up in live action, like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, and Aladdin. In the animated movies, you don't really get the connection or the relationship connection between the two prince and princesses. So when they do these live actions, they make it really, really. They do their absolute best to make a connection. And in this, I actually bought the connection a lot better. So, they're talking about how they're trapped in their own, lives. And then so they go. Jasmine's like, "I gotta get back to the palace. A prince is showing up. The princess needs me." And she's like, "Do you have my bracelet?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's looking through all his pockets. And she's like, "You're just a thief," because he can't find it. So she leaves him, and then he runs into one of the princess's guards, and he's like, "You'll be worthless. You were born a street rat. You will die a street rat, and your fleas will only mourn you," just like the original. So he goes back to his home and he sings um, "One Jump Ahead" again, um, and then Abu swings down and shows him he has the bracelet. He's like, "Abu, this was the one time we don't steal things." He's like, "There's a time that we steal, and there's a time that we don't." Bad Abu. So he starts to think, "Well, I can't return it to her." And then he starts to think of a plan. Cut to the palace, which was gorgeous. It was amazing. And you see Jasmine wearing this beautiful dress, which I said during my reaction. Um, she has her first encounter with this prince. I can't remember what his name was. He was kind of like Dutch or French. He was French, I believe. Anyway, Raja bites him. Um, and then it goes to Jafar and Iago talking. And then they're talking about like Jafar becoming sultan and ruling over Agrabah. And then Jafar hypnotizes or controls the sultan and is like, "Let's invade this country that the queen knew, or whatever, or like the queen's homeland, I believe." And then Jasmine's like, "Why would we invade mom's homeland?" And the sultan's like, "We would never do that." Um, and Jafar's like, "Princess, this is a time when you don't speak." He's like, "This is a like sultan and advisor conversation, not a sultan advisor and princess conversation." So the sultan's like, "Jasmine, you can leave now." And she's like, "Why don't you just make me sultan?" And he's like, "No, you can't be that. It's not the law. We've never had a we never had a princess become sultan over 5,000 years. It's never gonna happen." So she goes out. Jafar's like, "It would be far better if you would not intrude or speak over your father." And then she sings "Speechless," which I like. I like they included a new song. I believe with all the live actions they include a new song. I believe so. Um, and everyone was giving crap at first about Genie, his first look, and then they went to the guy that played Jafar. To be honest, the guy that played Jafar, he plays it really well. Um, at first, I had a problem that he didn't have a deep throat, or like he didn't have a deep voice. Um, but after a while, after hearing what he sounded like and how he looked and how he acted, I actually liked it, and I bought it. So after she sings "Speechless," she goes back to her room and she gets like all ready to go to bed or whatever. And she's talking with Dahlia and she's like, "Why do you want to be sultan?" Yada yada yada. And he's like, "If my mom had seen what Agrabah would look today, she'd be miserable." Um, and then so we cut to Iago catching Aladdin sneaking in, which I like too, because that kind of had like an Assassin's Creed type vibe. Um, Abu and Aladdin sneak onto the palace rooftop and they're jumping, and you get to see more parkour, which is great. And then it shows him like getting a disguise, which was great, and it added kind of more of the thief slash like adventure type of the movie. To the Aladdin character, sorry, which I like. And that kind of adds more to the character than we originally knew back in the animated movie. So Aladdin makes it to Jasmine's room, which has like a funny exchange between the two, between them and Dahlia. And he gives her back the bracelet, and then he like takes off like a piece of her like this necklace, like not necklace, this piece of jewelry that like holds her hair together, and like he just brushes it off to the side. And he's like, "Meet me outside on the balcony by tomorrow night when the moon is just right, and I'll return this." And that was such a sweet touch. I bought their connection more. I really bought the connection through all the scenes. So then he gets caught, and then cut to the next day. Jafar's just sitting there, and he's like, "Did you really not know that that was the princess?" And he's like, "That was the princess all this time, and I was just talking to her." He's like, "She probably thought I was an idiot." And he's like, "You are an idiot, but you could be more than an idiot." And he's like, "Okay." And then he's like, "You know, people like us don't get always what we want." He's like you and me, buddy, you look far better. And then Jafar grabs the jewelry that Aladdin had, and he's like, "I used to be like you, a common thief, only I thought bigger." And like which I bought too. I like that they kind of that added a rivalry between the two, where we could have seen how Aladdin, if he become more of a thief, besides going after like small things and like scrapping for food, if Aladdin turned out like Jafar. Um, and I like that. I like that they changed Jafar's backstory. In the original, he was just always the Sultan's visor, and he just became a powerful sorcerer. In this one, he was a thief, then he became the visor, and then he became the sorcerer. So he's like, "There's a cave of wonders. If you go and bring me the lamp, I'll give you enough money so you can get your own princess." And then Aladdin's like, "Sure." Um, Funny thing, in the original, when Aladdin meets Jafar, but he's disguised as that old man, that scene always freaked me out. Um, and at first, a lot of people were kind of upset that the old man was in this movie, but after a while, I was like, great. I just didn't have to see him go. So, they go to the Cave of Wonders, um, and they walked into it, and I like how it wasn't all lit up like in gold, like in the animated movie. It was kind of dark and blue, and Jafar was like, "Take only the lamp, nothing more. Don't touch any jewels, gold, rubies, nothing." And he's like, "Trust me, you will be tempted." So they go down to the Cave of Wonders, and then Abu sees something, and he's tempted. But Aladdin's like, "No." And as he slaps Abu, he looks and he sees like emeralds, and he's like, "No." I would have liked it if Abu hit him. It's like, um, so they go farther down in the cave, and then they meet Carpet. Carpet is like underneath a boulder. In the animated movie, he was just laying on the ground or something, and then Abu walked over and looked at him, and then it followed them. But in this, it was underneath a boulder, and yet again, they add something else to Aladdin's character. He's very strong because the the carpet is stuck underneath the boulder. So Aladdin gets underneath it, pulls it up, and the carpet just flies out, which was great. I like that they added another characteristic to Aladdin. So they get up to the main room where the lamp is, and he's like, "Abu, stay here, touch nothing." So he starts to climb up the rock, and rather it be like a couple steps to walk up to the lamp, he actually has to climb around the whole rock. Abu sees a ruby, and it's like spinning around on the ground because when Aladdin's climbing, he touches a ruby and it drops to the ground. And then Abu's just looking at it as it's rolling across the floor. So Aladdin grabs the lamp, and Abu grabs the ruby, and so the whole cave starts to explode. Um, and once again, we get to see some awesome parkour from Mina Masood. Um, which looked good. I actually felt kind of tense in that moment when all the lava's exploding and the walls are caving in. So they jump on the carpet. It flies them up to the exit, and it happens the exact same way the animated movie does. Um, Jafar gets the lamp, kicks Aladdin and Abu back down and with the carpet, except Abu climbed up on his back and grabbed the lamp. So it all caves in, and they're all down there, and they're like, "We gotta get a way out." And he's like, "Carpet, do you know a way?" And Carpet's pointing at the lamp, and he's like, "What's what's so special about the lamp?" And he just looks at it. It's got the enchantment on it, and we actually get to like see blue smoke coming out of it. So Aladdin's like starts rubbing it, and then oh my, as the music's playing, it's going and then Will Smith finally pops out, and oh my God, he was so funny coming out of it. He's like, "I stand here by my oath, loyalty to wishes three," and he's gigantic, like Robin Williams was. So he's looking around the whole cave. He's like, "Master, hello," and Aladdin's just like, "Huh?" And finally he looks down. He's like, "Oh, hey man." He's like, "I could have just stayed in the lamp if you didn't want to talk to me." And then Aladdin's just like, "Use your big boy voice." So they start talking, and he's like, "Where's your master? Where's your boss?" And he's like, "My boss." And he's like, "Listen, kid, there's always a guy who wants three wishes: money, fame, power, anything. Where's that guy?" And he's like, "He's outside." And he's like, "Oh, well then who rubbed the lamp?" And he's like, "I did." And he's like, "Oh, so you're my master?" And he's like, "I'm your master?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he's like, "I get three wishes?" He's like, "Yeah, you get three wishes." And he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, you don't know anything about me, do you? Genie, wishes, lamp, none of that?" And he's like, "Nope." So Genie puts on like a kazoo in Abu's mouth. He puts a drum on the back of him. He gives him like two. I can't remember what it's called. He gives Abu's like going around, and it plays like a little snap jingle to A Friend Like Me. He's like, "No, that's not enough. Okay, watch this." And the Friend Like Me sequence was so good. It was like the animated movie, just extra. It plays out way differently than the old one, but at the same time, Will Smith, man, his singing and everything just so after it's done, he's like, "How does it work?" And Will Smith's like, "But the whole song was the instructions." And he's like, "Okay, obviously you can't sing and dance at the same time. So here are the basics. You get three wishes. They must begin with rubbing the lamp and saying, 'I wish.' Got it?" "No." "I get three wishes?" "Yes." "All right. Rule number one, you rub the lamp. Step number two, you say what you want to wish for. Step three, there is no step three." And he's like, I can't make anybody fall in love with anybody or bring anyone back from the dead." And he's like, "Okay." And then, so he tricks him. Abu grabs the lamp, and then he's like, "Genie, I wish for you to get us out of here." And he's like, "Okay." They get out, and he's like, "Wow, the whole world is so big." And he's just like, inside the lamp is just brass, brass, brass. He's like, "Here's the thing about genies. From moment of cosmic power to itty bitty live in space." So they they get underneath this little tent that Genie makes, and he's like, "Ah, it feels good to be out of here." And he's like, "Man, you are really not that guy." And he's like, "So what you gonna wish for?" And he's like, "I really don't know, man." And he's like, "I have no clue." And he's like, "Yeah, you are not that guy. Trust me though. Don't drink out of that cup. There's not enough money in the world or power to satisfy you. Trust me, I've seen it 100 times." So it plays out like the original. He's like, "What would you wish for?" And he's like, "Freedom." Um, he's like, "Well, I'll use my third wish to set you free." And he's like, "Oh no, no you won't." And he's like, "Yeah, well." He's like, "I got three wishes, so on my third one I'll set you free." And he's like, "You've only got two wishes left." And he's like, "Well, technically I didn't rub the lamp, so I got three wishes." And he's like, "Wait a second." So he fast forwards it, and which was a funny gag, by the way. It's like, "All right, you got three wishes, but I'm watching you and your monkey. So he's like, all right, you got 3 wishes. So what you gonna wish for? And he's like, well, there is this princess. And he's like, I can't make anybody fall in love with. Okay. He's like, no, 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 no. We had this connection. And he's like, did did they really? And Abu's just like, um, and he's like, we had this connection, and she has to marry a prince. And then he's like, can you make me a prince? Which, again, I like. He was like, you got to be specific with your wishes, because he makes like a fake genie. I mean, he makes a fake prince that just pops up. And he's like, you got to be. The wish is in the detail. And he's like, all right. He's like, be careful what you want to wish for, and be specific with your wish. Be specific with the details, which will come back later. So he's like, I wish for you to become a prince. So he becomes a prince. Um, he, you know, makes the gown, and then something about the old one. They never explained how Aladdin got the name Prince Ali or the country Ababwa. So in this one, he's like, there you go. Now you're Prince Ali. He's like, Prince Ali? I like it. And he's like, Prince Ali of, and he's like, Ababwa. And Aladdin's like, Ababwa? No, 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 not Ababwa, Ababwa. And he's like, oh, okay. So, he makes Abu into the elephant. He's like, don't worry, it's only temporary. And he's like, all right, now for your encore. And then Prince Ali comes up, which was great. There's a good new, fresh sound, and the colors and the flowers and the whole spectacle of that whole song was great. And I liked at the very end, it changed from the very end. He was like, Prince Ali, fabulously, which was, oh, it's so good. Like, there's so many things I liked about this movie and all the changes they did. So they go into the palace, and which one of the funniest gags in the movie is the jams. He's like, we got thick jams, we got tiny jams, we got all these jams. And he's like, stop with the jams. And then it plays out like the original. He's like, I want to buy you. And he's like, no, 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 I didn't mean it like that. I want to buy a moment with you. And she's like, so you think I'm up for sale? And he's like, well, yes. No. And so she leaves, and the Sultan's like, you'll get another chance with her. We're having our festival tonight. Hopefully you can join. And he's like, yeah, I'll be there. And then Genie's like, in over 10,000 years, I've never been that embarrassed before. So the festival comes out, which is like this big party. So they start to go off to the party, and Aladdin's like, I've never been to a party before. And he's like, well, you better go back to the old room. You're not messing up my night. And then Jafar meets up with him again, and something I never got about the original was literally nobody figured out who Aladdin was until the third act. Really? In the animated movie, Jafar realizes Prince Ali is Aladdin when he sees the lamp is in his pocket. He's like, "Oh, that's Aladdin." And then when his song comes up, he shows Aladdin, Jasmine, and Jasmine's like, "That's Aladdin." So in this movie, Jafar already knows it. He's like, "This would all very work out easily if you would just come and meet up with me and just give me the lamp." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So they go to the party, and Aladdin's kind of freaking out because like there's all these nice people and all these princesses and princes showing up. So he's kind of panicking. Genie's like, you've got to be more confident with yourself. You may be a prince on the outside, but I didn't change anything on the inside, which I liked it because something about Will Smith's Genie was different from Rob Williams, which was good. I liked it. It was a fresh new take because Rob Williams' Genie felt more like a father figure to Aladdin in that movie, and not really a friend. They did have friendship moments, and they did have friendly moments, but it kind of felt like a father and son. With Will Smith and Mina Masud, I kind of felt like I bought their friendship because when he's giving out his wishes, he's like, "What would you wish for?" And he's like, None of my masters have ever asked me that before." And then Will Smith's like, "You got to be more confident with yourself. You may be this person on the outside, but don't change who you are on the inside. Prince Ali got you to the door, but Aladdin has to open it. So, Aladdin walks over to Jasmine, and she's like, "You want to dance? Fine." Which the choreography and the music that plays in the background was great. Mia, Mina Masood and Naomi, they play that scene really well together. To another point, you get to see Mina Masood do a backflip, which kind of makes Jasmine like, okay, now he's full of himself. So the party ends. They go back to the room, and which another thing between that builds the friendship and the bond between Genie and Aladdin. He's like, "Can you get me over to Jasmine's room?" He's like, "No, that you have to wish for that." And he's like, "You can't do a favor like for a friend." And he's like, "Genies don't really do favors, all right? It's more of a wish, all right?" He's like, "So I can't really get you over there unless it's a wish." And he's like, "Well, it would involve destroying a princess's maid." And then just Genie's like, "Oh, you got me, all right?" Because at the party, Genie was looking at Dahlia, and Dahlia was looking at Genie, and so they kind of like felt that chemistry with one another. So they go to the door. Genie goes to Jasmine's room, and he starts flirting and asking Dahlia out on a date. And the I like that they included a new character to Aladdin. Dahlia was such a nice blend of comedy and romance. The whole movie, I like that character, and the actress they got to play her was phenomenal. Her facial expressions and her acting and her charisma was just. I bought it. I bought it, because these Disney princesses and prince movies, they are supposed to be these romantic adventures, and this live action Aladdin felt like a romantic movie. I bought it. And something else, I've heard a lot of people say this movie is kind of like Hitch, which Will Smith starred in. So this is kind of like Blue Hitch, and I like the movie Hitch, and this kind of felt like that. And while I'm bringing up Hitch, the scene where he's asking Dahlia, the scene in Hitch where he's getting his guy to ask out that girl, and he's just like sitting at the door, and he's like, "You got that pen?" And he's like, "My son, her." So he's just talking to her. He's like, "You want to go on a walk?" So they go on a walk. Aladdin sneaks into her room, and she's like, "I can't find a bob wall on this map." And he's just like, "Let me look." So Genie makes up a bob wall on the map. And one of the things I like about this new version of Jasmine, she's not 16. They got rid of the whole age thing where she didn't have to marry someone at a certain age. She wants to be Sultan because she wants to do better in the community than what her father's doing or what Jafar wants to do. And she doesn't want to invade kingdoms. She doesn't want to invade countries. She wants to provide and give aid to her own country. Um, and it sent kind of a strong message to these females, because Aladdin's like, "Who needs maps?" And she's like, "Maps are part of research. They're part of history. They're the part that brings up all these great ideas and inventions." She's just like, "I just wish I could get out and see the world." And he's like, "Maybe you could." So he takes her out to the balcony, and he jumps off, gets on the carpet. He's like, "Do you trust me?" And at the very beginning, he's like, "Do you trust me?" And she did. So in this one, she's like, "That's Aladdin." So she gets on, and oh my god, Mia Masood and Naomi Scott killed it in this scene. A whole new world. Loved it. From the colors to the visuals to the vocal music. I loved it. And the romance between the two, I bought it. I bought it so much. So after they sing it, they look down over Agrabah, and it just looked even prettier. It looked so beautiful. You got to see people dancing in the streets, kids having fun for a chance. They're not starving. And then Aladdin's like, "You should be Sultan. It'd be good for you. You could do great here." And she's like, "You really think so?" And she's like, "Really? You think so?" And he's like, "Yeah, you'd be good. A princess being a sultan. Why not? Be a good idea." And then in that moment, she's like, "Yeah, you're Aladdin." She puts the two things together. And he's like, "Yeah, I just pretend to be a thief so people, won't think I'm just a boring old prince. And he's like, why'd you sneak out? Why'd you like being about Dolly? And she's like, I just want to get out and see the world. And he's like, yeah. So, they go back to the balcony and then they have their first kiss, which I bought. Again, it was beautiful. So then Aladdin goes back to his room and he talks with Genie. And he's like, I told her somewhat the truth. And then Dahlia's talking with Jasmine. She's like, so did he tell you the truth? And she's like, yeah, I believe him. And then Genie's like, you gonna lie to her for all your life? And he's like, no, I'm gonna tell her eventually. So the next morning, Aladdin wakes up and then he gets arrested by the guards. And they take him to Jafar. And Jafar's like, you see, I can't find a Bavwa. And I've never heard of it up until you arrived. And he's like, I know who you are, Aladdin. And he's like, bring me the lamp. And he's like, I'm not. And Jafar tested him. He already knew who he was, but he still wanted to test him. He's like, all right, if you're telling me the truth, if I throw you off this building and you come back, it'll prove my point. But if I push you off this tower and you don't come back, you would have told him the truth, but you would also die a watery death. He's like, where's the lamp? He's like, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know anything. And he's like, goodbye. Kicks him off. And then Abu flies on the carpet, throws the lamp in the ocean, and then as Aladdin is going unconscious, he rubs it. And then Genie, does a wish for Aladdin. So, Aladdin's down to only 2 wishes now. And he's like, I kind of did you a favor. It's a friendship thing, but it also costs you a wish. And he's like, it doesn't matter what it costs. It's all important is that you saved my life. So, they come up with a plan to get rid of Jafar and, reveal his evil doings. So, it cuts to Jasmine, the Sultan, and Jafar. And then Aladdin shows up and he's like, this is a surprise, Ali. And so, Aladdin breaks the staff. Jafar gets arrested. And then Sultan's like, thank you for bringing Jafar to justice. You are a truthful man. I would love you to be my son-in-law. And if you could marry Jasmine. And Jasmine's just like, really, Dad? Really? She's like, yeah, I choose Ali. Aladdin's just there like, still hating that he's living with a lie. So Genie's like, you got the girl. You're going to be Sultan. You get to have everything you ever wanted. And he's like, yeah, because of you. Everything that I have now is all because of you. And he's like, I can't give up. I can't give you up. If they find out who I am, I'll go right back to being where I am, on the streets. And Genie's like, I don't care about that wish, kid. All I care about is your happiness. But what I do want you to know is that you're breaking my heart. So he goes into the lamp, and Abu's just sitting there, just pouting. Carpet's there, just like. And Aladdin's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Meanwhile, Iago breaks Jafar out of prison, and as Aladdin's walking to his house, he knocks into Jafar, but Jafar's got a hood on, so he doesn't know it. He takes the lamp, rubs it, and Genie comes out. So Aladdin's at his house, just moaning and minding his own business. Back at the palace, Jafar makes his first wish to become Sultan. He has Jasmine arrested and has the guards turn against the Sultan, and then Naomi sings Speechless, which was great. It was a great song, very impactful. The only thing that hurt the scene for me was because she was singing in her head, not really out in the world. So after she sings, she turns around, she goes back in, and she's like, you're not going to silence me no more. You're not going to push me over. You're not going to take control. You are not my king. You never will be, and whatever. And then she turns over to the guard, and she's like, we've known you since you were a little boy. We took you in. We gave you a home. We gave you food. We gave you shelter. And for years, you've guarded Agrabah. You protected me and my family. And you did your best to protect my mom. So are you going to stand here and be a guard to this fool of a king? Or are you going to stand with your people in Agrabah and do what's right? And he turns around and he's like, Manos to Agrabah. So all the soldiers turn on Jafar. And he's like, alright, you're not gonna bow before your sultan, then you'll bow before a sorcerer. So he makes his second wish. Meanwhile, Aladdin already knew what happened, so he rushes back to the palace. And Genie's just looking over and is like, "Don't do it, kid. Don't sneak up. Don't do it." And Aladdin's just like, "Let me just get to the lamp." So after Jafar makes his second wish, he his outfit was great, and I got really tense when the snake came out of the chair and turned into a staff. I was like, no, I don't need that. Please stop. So he catches them, and Aladdin tries to reach for the lamp, and he's like, nope. He's like, here's your Prince Ali, who's really Aladdin. And he's like, I'm going to do you the honorable death of sending you to the ends of the world. And he slams his staff on the ground, and Aladdin just disappears into thin ice. Meanwhile, Jasmine watches her father, Dahlia, crushed to the ground, like their bones and skins are squishing together. And he's like, if you marry me, I'll let him live. But if you don't, you'll watch them both die. So she's like, fine, I'll marry you. So Carpet gets teleported by the genie to find Aladdin, who is there just sitting there in the cold looking for Abu, which he was so, I felt really bad for Abu because before they got teleported, he was just like, no, please don't. So when you find him in the snow and the ice, he's oh, I felt really bad for Abu. I really did. So, Carpet comes and rescues them. They go back to Agrabah. Um, Jasmine snatches the lamp, jumps off the roof, lands on the carpet, and they start flying. So then Iago gets big. Jafar turns into a giant flying bird, and he looked like he transformed from a sweet, innocent looking parrot to this demonized bird. Like he was ginormous. And it goes on to this big chase, which I really, really liked. It showed the whole group working together as a team. First, you saw Abu go after the lamp, and then it shows Aladdin going after the lamp and Abu while getting chased by Iago, to Jasmine rescuing both of them. So they get back to the palace. Carpet gets ripped up, and then Jafar does like the most evilest smile in the movie, and he looks like a devil. Pulls up everyone. He pulls up the Sultan, pulls up Dolly, and he pulls up Jasmine and has them there. And he's like, "You can't defeat me. You're just a street rat. There's nothing you can do." And he's like, "I am number one. You are second best." And then Aladdin remembers what Genie said about making your wishes count, being precise and detailed. So he's like, "No, you're not. You're second best. You'll always be second best. No matter what power you have, no matter what wishes you make, you'll never be satisfied." Which he really wasn't. When Jafar made his first wish to be Sultan, and then saw what Jasmine did to the guards, he wasn't satisfied, so he turned himself into a sorcerer. So after he turned himself into a sorcerer, he's like, "What are you talking about? I have all the power. There's nothing you could do, Aladdin." He's like, "No, but the genie has more power than you. He gave you the power. He could take it away if he wanted to." So he's looking at Genie, he's like, and then, Genie was like, "Oh, I see what Aladdin's doing." Because in the old movie, um, Aladdin's just like, "The genie's got more power than you," and then Genie's just like, "Ow, what are you doing?" But in this one, Genie's just like, "I see what he's doing." So they both look at each other and are like, so it was disappointing and at the same time satisfying not to see a gigantic snake at Jafar, which I would have also loved to see him, but also what I saw in the Jungle Book, I never want to see a gigantic snake like that ever again. So he makes his wish, but he doesn't say, "I wish to become a genie." He says, "I wish to become the most powerful man in the universe, more powerful than you." And then Genie's like, "There's a lot of gray area in that wish, but most powerful man in the universe." He commands his wish, but he doesn't make him into a most powerful man. He makes him into a genie because Jafar never said, "Turn me into a genie." He just said, "Make me more powerful than you. Make me the most powerful man in the universe." So Genie twisted his wish and made it into a genie, which was clever. I liked it. I like how they did that. It adds another characteristic to Aladdin. He's clever. He's a clever thief. So turns him into a genie, and Jafar's like, "I'm gonna obliterate this one country." And before he does, his shackles come off. He's like, here's the thing about a genie: phenomenal cosmic power, but an itty bitty living space. So he starts to get pulled into his lamp. He pulls Iago with him. Genie grabs it, throws it back in the Cave of Wonders, and everything that Jafar did turns back to normal. And Aladdin's like, I am so sorry for everything I did. I will accept any kind of punishment. Sultan's like, no, we all make mistakes. It's all right. You saved my kingdom. You saved my daughter. Thank you. So he walks off, and Genie's like, all right, you got one more wish. What's it gonna be? And he's like, you ain't got a wish for my freedom, but here's what I'm thinking. You can turn into Aladdin, the prince. No. The king of thieves, which was a nice callback to the King of Thieves movies, which I'm hoping they do a sequel to this Aladdin. I would love it. So anyway, he's like, third and final wish. What you gonna wish for? And he's like, wish for your freedom. And the chemistry that we've been seeing throughout the movie with Aladdin and the genie builds up right here. The two of them just watch each other as Genie turns free. He turns into a human. And the hug that they had, man, I bought. That was real friendship right there. So, Dahlia sees him and she's like, oh, we can be together. And then Aladdin's like, what you gonna do? And he's like, I've never thought of that before. He's like, but there's this nice maid who I'd love to be with and show the whole world. And he's like, I want a boat. And she's like, I want children. And then it flashes to the very beginning of the movie and you could see that was the mother. And before we even went and seen this, I already called it. I was like, Jafar's gonna fall. I said, Genie's gonna fall in love with Dahlia. Watch this. And by the end of the movie, I was right. Actually, when the movie came on and I saw the woman, they didn't even show her face. They just showed the back of her head. I said, that's Dahlia, isn't it? So by the second half of the movie, I was like, they get together. It's obvious. But anyway, they get together. Aladdin and Abu walk out of the castle. And then the Sultan's like, he's a good man. You can be with him. But you may also be the Sultan through your powerful words and how you stood up against Jafar for the first time over in 5,000 years. A princess can be a Sultan. He gives her the ring and he gives her his blessing. So Jasmine is the Sultan, which I like. It was a good change because I'm like, Aladdin has no experience in being a king. He's a peasant and a thief. So what would he gain of becoming Sultan? What would he do? He would have to listen to his wife, who knows all this stuff, because she's experienced it. She's grown up in a castle, and she's grown up with maids and servants and royalty, and she knows all this information about countries and civilization. So she knows how to run a kingdom. So for her to become Sultan, it makes it perfect. So she walks out with Aladdin. She's like, stop. Your Sultan commands you. And he's like, did I get in trouble? It's like, only because you got caught, which was a callback to the very beginning. It's nice. So they have another kiss, transitions to the wedding, and it was just wonderful. Everybody gets the happy ending, and it was such a good movie, you guys. I could go on and on about all the things I want to say about this movie, but there's obviously a time limit with all these movie reviews, so I want to keep it minimal and short. Thank you guys for enjoying my movie review. I hope you all did like it. If I was to give this rating from a 1 to a 10, you guys, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. To me, in my opinion, there was never a moment in the movie where I was bored. There was never a moment in the movie where I didn't like the certain changes. There was never a moment where I did not there was nothing I just didn't like about the movie. I just loved it. It was great. It lived up to the hype. It was like Homecoming. I saw the trailers. I was like, all right. When I went and seen the movie, it delivered. So with Aladdin, trailers right here, doubled with the cast, the music, the director. So when I saw the movie, the hype was for real, y'all, and it lived up. So I mean, I'm excited for all these other Disney live actions. I believe the next one is Maleficent 2, and Mulan. which I'm very excited to see. So, I will do more reactions whenever more of these Disney